Hello, BookTube. As some of you will have noticed that Randy Ray, the Literate Texan, our own Literate Texan, has recently been making a series of videos on his channel that are more discussional. They're more of him chatting about the life of books and the life of reading. Maybe there's a little bit more of him tailoring some of his comments to maybe younger readers or older people who are new to reading that want to incorporate more of it into their life. They're very, very good. I'll leave a link to a few of them down below if I can remember to find them all. And it's a slightly new tone for him on his channel. It is not doesn't mean that he's not doing all of our usual frenetic BookTube tags and whatnot lists, but it's slightly different tone that does what a number of us could do if we wanted to, which is to draw on one of the things that most of us have in common, which is a lifelong experience in reading. There are quite a few of us here now since BookTube, our little corner of BookTube, has been expanding to incorporate all kinds of readers. There are quite a few of us now who are perfectly willing to admit that they are relatively new to picking up reading again. They were forced to do it when they were kids in school. Then they dropped it, as anyone will do when they're forced to do it in school, and then they are coming back to it now. A lot of those new readers, I imagine, are in Randy's mind when he's making some of these videos. I found them fascinating. I really like them, and a couple of those type of reading discussional videos have been on the subject of what he refers to as elite readers. Readers who have devoted their whole lives to reading, or large chunks of them. Readers who have devoted huge amounts of time, year after year after year, to reading. Readers who are, for whom reading is a fundamental part of their life. As opposed to the 98% of humans on Earth for whom reading is no part of their life at all. They never read anything at all. And then you've got about a percent and a half that do read, but they're the people that fill out the bottom of the statistics when people are polled on this subject. They are the ones who read 2 books a year, which is inconceivable for us. But they're the ones who do it, and there's a lot of them. And then there's the 0.0000568% of 1% that is us. People who cannot imagine a day without reading. I mentioned to Randy, when he made the first of these videos, that I thought it was an excellent subject and an excellent categorization, but that he was being a little too narrow. I mentioned that I think a lot of us on BookTube are elite readers. But I understand what he means by it. And I was happy to see a follow-up video and then another one. And I got an email. Now, you all know that I leave my email on every video. And it's not a dummy email. It doesn't lead to a merch store. It's not a Hotmail account that I never look at that's gone over once a week by a terrified underling. It's my inbox, where I live all day long. If you ever visit Hyde Cottage, you will know I live in my inbox all day long. Because it's my inbox, and because I work from home, in addition to carrying on a fairly voluminous correspondence, my email correspondents have to understand that. If you send me a very, very, very long email, I'm not going to read it, much less respond to it. And I have had people hear that in videos of mine. I have said this many times. I've said it for years now. I've had people hear that and do that same thing just to prove that I don't mean it. Which is a little bit odd. But most of you get it. Most of you get how to do it. How to do email just in general. It's not me. It's how you're supposed to do email just in general. Where it's interesting. It doesn't go on forever and ever. Maybe it ends with a question where there's a dialogue going on. I love that, and hundreds of you now email me back and forth. So as long as you understand that I might not get back to you immediately, then we're okie dokie. I leave my email in every video, and one of you sent me an email that was a little bit longer than I like, but still within acceptable parameters. And I got this person's permission. I'm sure you're watching. I got your permission to read 1 paragraph out of 3. Because 1 paragraph out of 3 is asking me a question, but it deals with BookTube. And I wanted to, it connects with this whole subject, so I wanted to read it and then dilate on it just a bit. So there's a paragraph of personal stuff, and then I wanted to ask you about some videos lately by Randy Ray, the Literate Texan, since you have a since you have a guest, maybe you haven't seen them. No, there's no punctuation here, so I was thrown off. And it's true. For last week, I had a guest. Christopher Russell was here as a guest, so I was tending to a needy hedgehog the whole time. He talks, and I guess that's a reference. That's a reference to the fact that I mentioned that I watch all of YouTube. I watch everything. I don't always comment on every video, in some parts because some of the videos that I watch that I really enjoy, I know the person doesn't want me to comment. They wouldn't want to know that I'm even watching their channel. There's a lot of instances where that's true. Steve hatred is rampant. I am an outcast, a leper, a pariah. But anyway, I think that's what that's a reference to, is that's why I'm telling you about it, because you might not have seen it because you've had a guest. He talks about elite readers, and in one video he mentions you by name. But you always say in your videos that you hate book snobs or book snobbery, so why haven't you made a response video calling this out? Is it because you have a guest, or is it because you're friends with Randy Ray? And I want to point out something here. I pointed it out in my response. I'll point it out here, on this video as well, which is that in the previous paragraph to this one, you mentioned that you've been watching my channel for years. If you've been watching my channel for years, you know that I'm not going to let the fact that someone's my friend stop me from fighting with them, from catfighting with them. That's not going to happen. If I disagree with the point, I mean, Randy has a wide reach, wider than he thinks he does. So if he says something I think is dead wrong, it's not going to matter that I'm his friend. I'm still going to respond to it. You'd be much closer to the fact with pinpointing that I have a guest, because believe it or not, I won't say that I don't want to be rude to my guests, because then you would be able to hear Christopher Russell screaming from 1,000 miles away. I won't say that I don't want to be rude to my guests, but I have specific wavelengths of rudeness. There are some things that I consider beyond the pale. And making a full slate of videos when I've got a living person sitting in the room is definitely one of those things. So they would be closer to that, although I did watch them. I think Randy made one of these videos while Christopher is here, and we watched it together. No, I didn't make a response video criticizing it because I agree with it. And that's because he isn't talking about literary snobbery at all. He's not talking about what people read. He's talking about how people read. And he's right. It's a thing we don't like to admit, and I don't understand that. Christopher and I were actually talking about this after we watched his video, that if you were to tell me, if you were to watch on TV someone running a 3-minute mile, or doing an Ironman competition, or those incredible videos with the helmet cam videos on Instagram of people riding mountain bikes down vertical switchback trails in a forest, where they've got to be in absolutely complete control of their bike and their own personal coordination, or they would ruinously destroy themselves. You or I trying that would last 1 second before the bike hit a tree or a moose or a Bigfoot. They go all the way to the bottom of the trail, and they film themselves doing it. It's incredible. When you look at a video like that, or the most famous example in the world from last week, Alex Honnold climbing a tower with nothing. He didn't have any equipment. Didn't have any belaying ropes or anything like that. He was just nothing, just his hands and feet. If you stood at the bottom of that tower that he climbed, you couldn't find the handholds to even get yourself 10 feet off the ground. And he was hundreds of feet off the ground, smiling the whole time. Now, if you look at that feat, the first thing you're going to say, if I ask you, is, no, I couldn't do that. I would need years of practice to learn how to do that. Years of practice. And what is the thing that's implied in that statement, whether it's about the mountain biking or anything? In all of those cases, you would say, I would need years of practice to do that. I can't just get up and do that. What's the thing behind that? What are you alluding to when you say that? You're alluding to the fact that maybe with years of practice and dedication, you could do it. That's what you'd need in order to get to that point. For some reason, when it comes to reading, people are unwilling to grant that same thing. They just don't want to do it. Most of them don't. I don't know about the exact demographics in this little corner booktube, but most readers do not want to admit that there are Alex Honolds out there in reading. They don't. I think probably, I was mentioning this to Christopher, I think mainly the reason is because it's something we can all do. We all learned how to read before we even remember learning how to read. So It's something that we can all do. Whereas you don't ever, as part of your day, free climb anything. So it's easier to view it as a skill set that is out there in the nebula somewhere rather than something that you have. It's harder for people to acknowledge that maybe something that they can do and do every day, other people might be able to do better. That's all that Randy was saying in his videos. That's what he was talking about when he quoted and profiled elite readers. Now, I object to his videos because in his first batch of elite readers, he included me. And in his second batch of elite readers, he booted me out of the club. And his explanation, when I asked him about it, was that I don't want to be seen as a fanboy. Why not? All of you should be fanboys of me. All of you should be. I think I lost one last week with Christopher Russell, but it could come back. You never know. He could forget the worst of it. Trauma has a way of doing that in the brain. He could forget the worst of it and still voluntarily come back. But despite the fact that Randy grievously insulted not only me, but generations of Donahues and Powerses and Hickeys and Leahys by booting me out of the club in his second video, despite that fact, I don't think there's any doubt. I don't think there are many people, even among the many, many people on BookTube who hate me, who would deny that fact. I don't think anyone would deny the fact that when it comes to something, if you're going to call it an elite reader, well, I would be one of them. I've read an enormous number of books. I have a very good recall of what I've read. I have written about an enormous number of what I've read, and I continue to read at a rate that far exceeds what normal, busy people with healthy personal lives can do. I've devoted my entire life to that. My entire life to that and this. That little ball of fur right there. The whole of it. Well, that's going to yield results that are probably going to be different from yours. Doesn't mean that I'm a better person. It's my abs that make me a better person. Okay? I am still a better person. But it's the fact that I'm stone cold super hottie that does that, not anything else. Okay? Just recall Jack Edwards. But the contention that there are elite readers, the contention that some people, like some people free climbing or mountain biking or anything else, in all those other instances, you are perfectly willing to admit there are some people who do it as a weekend pastime. There are some people who don't do it at all and so would be terrible at it. There's some people who do it as a weekend pastime, and there are others who devoted a lot of time and energy to it, and they are, of course, Olympic level. But with reading, somehow we don't want to do that. That's all that Randy was saying. He wasn't saying that some readers are better people. He wasn't using elite in that way. I don't really know what other word he could have used. It wouldn't have caused him an equal amount of trouble. But what he was saying was that there are some people who are just my phrase in my lifetime has always been Olympic level. There are some people who are just Olympic level readers. They've put in the sacrifice and the time and the work to get there. We're not saying that they're smarter than anybody. We're saying that they've trained the muscle of their literary awareness, how well you're digesting what you see on the page, which is so much a factor of how many other pages you've seen and digested. It's so much a factor of that. But also, how well do you remember all those precedents that you've read? Can you pull them out of your brain at just the right time to knead them into what you're reading now? Can you make parallels? Can you make observations that hold up? Can you do interpretations or readings of what you're looking at that hold up? All of that takes practice. Lots and lots of practice. If you haven't done that practice, you could still enjoy your reading, absolutely. Same thing, I would argue, to a large extent, with how fast you read. We've talked about that many, many times on this channel, that the speed of your reading is changeable. You can improve it. Just are you willing to? It boils down to just a handful of things. You have to teach yourself to not sub-vocalize. If you want to. You have to. You don't have to read fast. It's not a contest. It's not a race. But if you want to double or triple your reading speed, the number of pages that you read per hour, you have to stop vocalizing. You have to stop saying the words in your head. Also, you have to concentrate on what you're doing. If you've got notifications, bells singing from your phone every time anybody wants to tell you about the latest Epstein file drop, most people don't understand their concentration. They don't understand what concentration is. They think of it more like a rubber band, where if I stretch it in this direction because I've been distracted, it will snap right back. That isn't true. You lose a percentage of your concentration, and it takes a long time to get it back and going if you snap it away even once. So you have to not sub-vocalize. You have to not distract yourself. You have to prioritize reading. So there's going to be an hour in your day where you read, and everybody knows that, and you know that, and you're not going to do anything else. A number of other things, but those sorts of things will increase your reading speed. And the more reading you do, probably, the better your brain will get, especially if you work it in this direction, the better your brain will get at making all of those intertextual connections. And if you do that for a decade, at the end of that decade, you're going to be a better reader than the people in that 1% who read 2 books a year. Yet something about that offends the American, especially the American egalitarian sense. Something about that someone's a better reader than I am. No one wants to hear that because they can still read. We're not a question of can you read. It's not a question of can you read. You can ride a bike, but you can't do that mountain biking thing down a steep road. It's not a question of can you read. It's a skill. It's a set of skills. And if you've done those things, paying close attention, doing virtually nothing else for 10 years, you will be a better reader than people who don't do that. And if you do those same things without much of a break for 30 years, 50 years, 60 years, if you keep doing it, you will be even sharper at it. To the point, usually that is the case. And no one is saying that that's an Olympus that needs to be striven for at all. I have known many, many people my whole life who just read. They couldn't imagine not having a book going. I just read. Oh boy, sometimes it calms me down. Sometimes it gets me away from the chaos in the kitchen. Sometimes it really distracts me from work. And I can't imagine a day without it. I have known so many people that fit that description. They don't ever read anything but a little narrow range of what comforts them. The kind of reading that they like. Every once in a while, they will think, I'd like to try something a little different. They come to me, they get a recommendation. It's a good recommendation. It's close to what they like, but not the same. It expands them in a little bit. They're reading in a little bit. And sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. And they've always got a book going. They never have more than one book going. And when that book is done, they finish it and they think, boy, that was really good. Or, boy, there was an aspect of that I didn't really like. Might talk to me about it. Then they bring it back to the library. They drop it off, they talk to their friends there, and they borrow a new one. And they do that their whole life. I've known people who've done that their whole lives. Okay. So they are in that 1 to 2% of readers. They read, they are wonderful to talk to about their reading, provided you're not being a snob. They are wonderful to talk to about their reading, but they are never going to be what is referred to in Randy's videos as elite. And they'd be the first to admit it. They're never going to be that. They're a big reader. They are a big reader. In this little corner of BookTube, that seems a little odd to say, since even the slowest readers in this little corner of BookTube polish off well more than 2 books a year. But those people are still genuine readers. They just aren't elite. That's all. They aren't. And of course, the 99% of humanity that doesn't read at all, not only are they not elite readers, but they would consider it an insult if you called them that. So really, it's just the rest of us. And in the rest of us, it's natural that you're going to have categorizations like this. I don't understand. This email is not the only one that I've received from people saying that Randy's videos are not only acknowledging, but encouraging a kind of snobbery, a kind of elitism. Maybe that would be, if I talked to him ahead of time, maybe that's the one thing reason why I would have avoided the word elite, because it's first cousin to the word elitism, which only has, elite has a couple of definitions. Elitism only has one. And it's bad. Maybe we could have picked another word, but his videos make his meaning perfectly clear. And I gather that he has also had a few pushback comments saying, well, how can you be encouraging? How can you be endorsing this kind of snobbery? He's not. He's not doing that. He's merely acknowledging the facts and giving you a few pointers if you want to maybe up your reading game. Nothing wrong with that. It's a human endeavor. It's a human thing that humans do, like cooking or sewing or long-distance running. In none of those other cases would you say, I don't need any pointers, I'm already great. None of those other things. In all those other things, you would be the first to say, well, yeah, I would need pointers because I need to get good at this. I'm not. I'm average, but I would need if I want to get much better, I would need to devote more time, and pointers would be much welcome. In any other endeavor in human life, that is true, except reading. And all his video was doing was acknowledging that it is true across the board, not just there's not this weird exception. It's first cousin to a subject that I brought up on this channel many times before, which is people saying that analyzing books is not possible, that it's all subjective, because analyzing books, that's a direct function of getting good at reading, is critical analysis of what you read. That's a direct function of getting good at reading. So, of course, it bothers me quite a bit when people say that, oh, anybody's good at that. It's all subjective. Every subjective judgment is as good as any other subjective judgment. That drives me nuts. That isn't true. And it stems from this. I think it stems from the fact that people don't want to think that this thing that they've been doing their whole life has grades of skill, but it does. It obviously does. So I just thought I would answer this little question. I would answer it out loud, and agree with Randy Ray. There's nothing snobbish about the videos that he made. Their only flaw is that when he had his original group of elite readers, he included me, and then he booted me out. That's the only flaw. Far better would be a video about elite readers in which no one else is included but me. That'd be far better. But still. And the only flaw that my writer made here is to assume that me being friends with Randy would mean that I would not disagree with him. Disagreement is a healthy part of any real friendship. So of course I would disagree with him. He hasn't. The only thing I disagree with here is him booting me out of the club. not the definitions themselves. It's just true. It might be a hard truth to hear for some people. I'd like to think we don't have that many insecure readers in this little corner of BookTube. I think that most of the people here watching his videos know exactly what he means and know that it's true. And just if it isn't true for you, and then maybe you don't worry about it, as you shouldn't. It's a very strange skill set to be envying. But anyway, I'll leave links to the videos in question, and see what you think. See what you think if you haven't seen them. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.